What are you thinking? Cole Sports presents on the Daily. We're glad to have you aboard. Cole Johnson's on the mic and in front of you on the Daily's on tap, presented by Cole Sports. And it's Tuesday. You know how we get down on Tuesday because we had to find a topic which describes a person or an organization that just simply doesn't get it. So there was a coach in an organization where they were trending in the right direction. Now, they didn't really make the playoffs, but they came close both the last 2 years. But the organization thought, we need to go in a different area. So, on the heels of Brian Flores, the head coach of the Dolphins, now being the former head coach, being fired yesterday, you, the organization as a whole, are tone deaf. Explain to me the rationale of firing a guy who, in the last 9 games of this past season, you were 8-1. I don't understand it, but in combing a lot of this stuff, I totally do get it. Like, take for instance the owner of the team, Stephen Ross. Now, he basically soft shoed the firing, and he described it as it wasn't things on the field, it was things off of it. What do I mean? I'll give you an understanding of this by the following quote. I've been looking at this over 3 years now and watching the organization grow. I think an organization can only function if it's collaborative and it works well together. And I don't think we were really working well as an organization to consistently win at the NFL level. Close quote. So you want to overlook and gloss over the I'll be kind to your organization, Mr. Ross. One that isn't really playoff ready, yet you had a coach who got them believing they could be. All because it was some squabbling between him, possible squabbling between him and your brass, the football people that you have in charge. It's because of them, and it's because of that, and not the product on the field that makes you say, maybe we should stick together with this and go forward with it. This is reminiscent to me of back in 2006, I believe, when the Chargers had Marty Schottenheimer, and I think it was AJ Smith that was the general manager, and the two of them were at odds. And this was coming after the team went 14-2 and had home field advantage throughout the AFC in the playoffs, but they unfortunately lost in the division round to the Patriots. Well, Schottenheimer got so sick of it, he went his way and Smith went his. And throughout that season, it was tumultuous. But they found a way to work together. And that year it worked fine. But I guess at the end, just too much tension that just simply said, I gotta not deal with this anymore. The Dolphins didn't even get to the playoffs, but they were building and trending in that direction. Yet you wanted to fire this man because you thought that he couldn't get along with the culture. He couldn't get along with the staff. He couldn't get along with the brass. He couldn't get along with the owners. And I don't see the problem because you have a team that just simply has, I don't know, missing parts all over the place. But they're still giving the Patriots issues. Well, not necessarily the Bills this year, but teams that were competing for the playoffs like the Ravens, like the Patriots, like, well, okay, well then, I somewhat see in certain ways, but this proves my point in the the roster was thin in talent, and you have this man to thank in the general manager Chris Greer. Now he's been in the organization 22 years, the last 6 as a GM, the last 3 being basically the president of vice president of football operations. And it basically was a power struggle between him and Flores. And I'll talk about that a little later. But when the owner, Ross, talked about a roster, I'm thinking, what roster are you talking about? Oh, okay. All right. I'll let his words do it justice and not mine. Quote, if you look at our roster, we have a very fine, I think excellent roster of young players. This was all done in the last 3 years. We had an old aging roster before that it was leading us nowhere but to mediocrity. And I think if you look at our roster today, you see our salary cap, the players we have. I think we're well suited for the future. Close quote.
You for real?
What roster do you have? Your offensive line. Okay, I'll be kind. Your offensive line is trash. Your defensive line is getting there. Your your linebacking core is also getting there. Your secondary, okay, but your skill position players. Who is the skill position player that you trust on a consistent daily basis or a game to game basis? Now, unless you're a Dolphins fan, I don't think anybody could say anything. But in terms of roster, it's Xavier Howard, the cornerback of your team, and Xavier Howard and Xavier Howard. And what roster are you talking about, Mr. Ross? Because you really don't have one in terms of one who can compete with the Chiefs or this year, the Patriots or the Bills or the Titans or in the NFC, the Bucks or the the Packers or the Cowboys even or the Rams. You don't have a roster that can compete with those squads and win most of those games. You don't have it. The talent isn't there. The cupboard is almost bare. But you claim that you have a good stock of talent. You might, and some may come up out of nowhere. But I know this: you don't have much to wish to speak of at the moment, which brings me to the next point: Tua Tagovailoa. Now, I'll say this in all kindness: you don't really have a quarterback right now in Tua, and the only reason why I say it that way is because Flores knew you didn't have one in Tua. Why do I say that? Last year, 2020, not 2021, last year, Tua had some success, but he struggled. And as the season went on in his rookie season, he started to wane in his effectiveness. So then Flores replaced him with Ryan Fitzpatrick and gave the team a spark and came within one demolishing of the Bills in the final game of the 2020 regular season in making a playoff bid. Then this year, he starts off struggling early. Then he gets injured in the home game against the Bills. So he sits off a little bit, licks his wounds. He comes back and he did well, but he did well within the confines of the offense. So when you have this understanding, guess where Flores wanted to look? Yes, he wanted to get the current Houston Texans quarterback, Deshaun Watson, because he knew it was going to take a quarterback of his caliber to lift this team to beyond playoff status. But with Tua, it just wasn't going to happen, at least for now, because he's not there yet. Now, could you fault that on Flores? I don't think so. But you have a second-year quarterback who played just barely over a year's worth of games, and you really can't say he is the guy yet. You can't say, yeah, he's going to take us to the Super Bowl yet. He wanted a guy where you could say that. And Deshaun Watson, you could, and Tua, you could not. And then what makes this even funnier? So the owner, Ross, he is a graduate of Michigan. And now there's a opening for the head coaching job for the Dolphins. Guess who might come a knocking, or I should say, guess who he might invite to come a knocking? Yes, the current Big Ten champion Michigan head coach, Jim Harbaugh. I don't think he would fit. Not here, not now. He's invested in Michigan. Let him stay invested in that program. You don't have anything to do with that. Let him be in Michigan. Let him be in Ann Arbor. You deal with South Beach and the mess that you have now created, which is worse. Look, Mr. Ross, Mr. Greer, you all have issues. Issues. Because if you think Flores is going to be basically licking his wounds, crying in his spilled milk, I don't think so. I mean, he's already going to interview for the Bears job, and they just fired Matt Nagy, who was offensive minded, and Flores is defensive minded. They might find a fit there, especially considering in the last 2 years, you're talking about a guy who took his team to a 19-14 record. Only 9 teams could say that they had a better record in that stretch, and all of them are playoff teams. So, in thinking that this was the right move, you don't have a clue. This man should still be on your sidelines. He should still be guiding your team and leading your team to victory because he did it 8 out of the last 9 games you played. And he took a team that has no talent and made them a possible playoff contender. But because of squabbling, you decided this is not your guy. Well, you know something? You all don't want to win. You all don't want to win at all. No, you all want to look good. Flores doesn't feel the team that looks good. Who cares about the style? As long as the W is posted on the board, that's all that matters. But since you want style and you want the style to reflect South Beach, Miami Dolphins organization, you are tone deaf. Now, if you like what I have to say, or if you dislike what I have to say, I want you to comment because I want to hear what you have to say. Like this video, share throughout your social media community. Don't forget, comment below, and don't forget to hit that subscription button and hit that notification bell. Get every video that comes from Cole Sports, every one of them. Well, that's all my time. I thank you so much once again. And for all of us here at Cole Sports, I am Cole Johnson. And this has been yet another installment of Cole Sports on the visual and on the daily.